Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and you know what, this week's kind of normal. Well, we do have the return of Linkin Park, and, well, that gets a bit messy. And this, it's Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
You know, there is a part of me that is somewhat grateful the Hot 100 decided to slow down a bit for the final month of the Billboard year. Yeah, I'm going to keep on mentioning this is the final month of the Billboard year for 2024 for the total idiocy that is. Mostly because album reviews and other projects on the main channel, they're starting to pick up, and I appreciate whatever breathing room I can get. But truth be told, I think after such an eventful spring and summer, I don't mind the lull, and this week still did have some motion, so okay. Top 10, where, you know what? I'm still kind of shocked that a bar song, Tipsy by Shaboozie's holding on to the number one. Chalk it up to a good streaming week and a healthy radio margin, even if that's slightly declining. It's got enough inertia to drop off pretty slowly. And yet, it held over I Had Some Help by Post Malone featuring Morgan Wallen at number 2, which just lags across the board, and it's not going to make up any margin anytime soon. And neither is Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter at number 3. She might be losing radio slower, but she just has less spins and streaming. There's not really anything making up the gap there. Now, this is where I think Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars could make a move, as it's now up to number 4. Yeah, my prediction is a couple weeks late, and streaming and sales both took a step back, but the radio push is really trying to shore it up. It might just be a question of timing. But Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish up to number 5 might have a little bit more to work with. Slightly weaker streaming, but its radio momentum is stronger and just more consistent, at least for this week. And that was enough to elbow back Taste by Sabrina Carpenter down to number 6, where despite having the top spot on streaming, the radio isn't anywhere close to catching up. Now, this opens up the door for Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan up to number 7, where if the radio had moved a little bit faster to capitalize on great streaming, she could have surged faster and higher, but the radio is still steadily rising, even if her streaming kind of isn't. But it comfortably broke over Please 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 by Sabrina Carpenter down at number 8, which largely vacillated on the radio this week as its streaming has started to fall off sharply. Finally, holding their positions at the bottom of the top 10, we got 2 songs that are really just on the decline. Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 9, where he saw a bizarre second wind boost on the radio, and that likely just held him over Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar at number 10, which doesn't have that same radio support despite having actually better streaming. And that naturally takes us to our losers and our dropouts, where in the latter group, we actually had 2 relatively big ones. Dirt Cheap by Cody Johnson, which is likely just gonna miss the year-end list for 2024, and Fortnite by Taylor Swift featuring Post Malone, likely clinching her year-end list spot. I mean, I like the song, but it should not be representative of the rest of the Tortured Poets department on the Hot 100. She quite frankly had better on that album. We'll see if any of them show up on the year-end. Anyway, our losers are mostly encompassed in the continued album bomb losses of Sabrina Carpenter, with Juno falling to 49, Coincidence at 60, Sharpest Tool at 63, Slim Pickens at 75, Don't Smile at 83, and Dumb and Poetic at 87. Outside of those, Crazy by Le Seraphim fell off the debut to 88, Beautiful As You by Thomas Rhett slid off his album bomb boost to 82, and Big Dogs by Hanuman Kind and Call Me fell back to 41, as it looks like the virality is losing some momentum. Kind of a shame, I do like that song. But now for our returns and gains. Well, in the former group, as I predicted, American Nights by Zach Bryan rebounded to 100, although I'm not exactly pleased that Residuals by Chris Brown came along with it at 97, but I'm not sure how to read our gains here outside of Sailor Song by Gigi Perez having bona fide momentum, now up to 47. I mean, Circadian Rhythm by Drake up to 59 off the debut last week. I did not predict any success for it at all, and the rest are really scattered from there. From country, we got Love You, Miss You, Mean It by Luke Bryan at 70, and Am I Okay by Megan Maroney at 74. I guess you could chalk those up to Nashville radio. And then, well, I Love You, I'm Sorry by Gracie Abrams up to 56, and La Patrulla by Peso Pluma and Net Vega up to 57 off good streaming weeks. I mean, I'm not sure where the traction's coming from for either of those, but Peso Pluma had a big YouTube boost. That probably would make some degree of sense. But okay, now on to our new arrivals, where we have a pretty reasonably sized list. and unfortunately we're gonna start with number 95, Baby I'm Back by Kid LAROI.
I don't even know how I should feel. I got a couple big houses and some wish, maybe 3. And I got family members that got bigger egos than me.
Rarely has a song title felt like so much of a threat, but truth be told, I actually think this might be better than it frankly has any right to be, running off a pretty terrific player sample from the 1970s to support the liquid guitar, pianos, and bass, where it actually takes a while for the whirring trap percussion to drop in, and we're better for it. It's just kind of a shame we're stuck with Kid LAROI at the core of the song, because while he's becoming a more refined vocalist, he shows a lot less personality as a result, and the whole more money, more problems framing of the track, given that he's now in a relationship with Tate McRae who wants him to ride it out, but he keeps on thinking about the past, I think it's pretty flimsy. It's hard to buy into this sort of nostalgia for the better days for someone who was born after 9/11. Still, by the very low bar I set for Kid LAROI, it's pretty decent. Yeah, the sample obviously carries it, but he doesn't really ruin it either, at least for me. I'll give it a pass. Number 93, Shake That Ass Twerk Song by Bossman Dlow.
I ain't no referee, but she know I'm a visual. She got both ass cheeks bouncing that double dribble.
Gee, without the subtitle, I'm not sure we would have known. Bossman Dlow, a rapper with whom I've just not been impressed this year, with a lot more swagger than technical skill or anything to say. But fine, when it comes to strip club songs, it's not like you need a lot to make this work. And I'll admit the production does a lot of heavy lifting, even if it's a bit too grim for my taste. That heavy dark piano, the crushing bass, the trap groove that nearly clips the mix but might be one of the few times it actually works, and Bossman Dlow largely confined midway to the back. And even there, it kind of seemed like he got the assignment. It's an ass song, stick to money and drinking and sex, just don't fuck up the flow. And even then, he's not special, saying that if the guy can't buy Dior, he Pior, or maybe the girl's just basic and not worth his attention beyond the spray, and then he drops into the homophobic slurs on the end of the one verse. Classy guy. Look, I appreciate the producer knowing that the beat is the best thing here, and on that basis I can tolerate it, and putting Bossman Dlow further back. But man, other rappers to break out with multiple charting songs in 2024, Bossman Dlow is not it for me. Let's keep moving. Number 91, Disco by Surf Curse.
I can try, but I can't hide it from you.
Alright, here's something a bit different. A band with something of a catalog going viral on TikTok instead of a one-off act, because Surf Curse has actually been around for a while. They broke out in the early 2010s with a surf rock-infused style of indie rock and punk, and I remember seeing a bit of buzz for them, especially their early track Freaks going viral on TikTok, around a similar time as a wave of allegations flooded in, which led to them losing their label. Now, the allegations appear to have been retracted, the band got signed to Atlantic, as more allegations wrecked a number of acts and labels in their SoCal scene. So naturally, instead of anything from that 2022 major label Atlantic project going viral, it's reportedly the best song on their 2019 album that it drew some comparisons with Vampire Weekend. And I'll say this, it's at least better produced than Freaks was, with the fuller, jangling guitars and the coursing bass line building to a better bounce, alongside the crisp drum work and the drawling yelp of all the vocals. But that's also probably where the Vampire Weekend comparison will end for me, because the writing here is considerably more basic. Falling in love on the dance floor to the sounds of disco, even if of course this song sounds nothing like disco. But you know what, it's hot, it's horny, that works for this sort of surf rock inspired indie rock. I guess where I'm at with this, it's generally pleasant, but I'm not sure what makes it so special that places it a cut above anything else in this sound and subgenre. I call it decent, it's competently executed, but it should feel more special. That's all. Number 86, Diet Pepsi by Addison Rae. Okay, I assume at this point anyone here who uses TikTok knows who Addison Rae is. For those who don't, she's a massive TikTok celebrity, okay, really at this point transcending TikTok to the mainstream, given her film work and the crossovers with the Kardashians. But in recent years, she's turned to making music, with a debut EP last year, and then showing up on the remix of Charlie XCX's Von Dutch, So okay, maybe it's her fault. I have to assume it partially led to this song charting at all, because this is the sort of track I could see working if it wasn't such an obvious vehicle for a very limited singer cushioned in waves of cooing overdubs that still managed to hit that baby voice frequency on the hook that really doesn't work for me. Not helped by way too many highs left in among the tapping percussion that got grating in record time. Hell, combined with the fuzzy synth that's barely passing as a melody, why am I reminded of Heat Waves by Glass Animals, except with one of the weakest key changes for that final hook that I have heard in recent memory? And I can't say that Addison Rae is a better singer. Her vocals are so layered and touched up that no flaw is allowed to break through. But you know what, if she's trying to play up the sex appeal, playing to classic Americana as they fuck in the backseat of a car, I mean, this would be how you would do it for this sort of over-polished pop song. I think my bigger issue with this is that if you give it to the vast majority of pop divas today and you tidy up some of the mastering, I think they would all bring more to the table vocally than Addison Rae, who has fame and TikTok clout, but little else here. In other words, I just don't think it's that good. Just saying. Number 85, Ruby Rosary by A$AP Rocky featuring J. Cole.
Like they Rosalie, all black stones, black on, like I'm Jodeci. Funny how I birthed so many sons with no ovaries.
They're really trying to get me to care about A$AP Rocky. Why not throw on the J. Cole stimulus package that seems to be worth a lot less than it used to be? Granted, I'm not against getting a very somber piano and slow-paced drums from The Alchemist to set this haunted vibe. And credit to A$AP Rocky, these are two verses that can show what he can do at his best, with the first as a more luxuriant flex in his beat, which is actually pretty effectively, the second a lot of veiled subliminals being thrown at Drake, probably the most interesting ones being the taunts calling him a dead man walking in his career, and then comparing him to Brian Griffin from Family Guy, which in challenging a person who says he holds principles but spends so much time lying to himself as he wallows, that's actually kind of targeted, kind of works. I really wish J. Cole's verse did more though. It's more musings on his own career as he sees rappers fall off around him, and the realization he needs to get back to his pen to keep up with his established lifestyle. He needs to evolve, move forward, and that's probably the right attitude, and it's delivered pretty effectively, even if I think J. Cole's braggadocious side feels kind of hollow now, even if he flows well. Hell, honestly, and this might be heresy, given how Rocky's second verse sounded, I was kind of reminded a bit of Cole's early flow, and I think I like that verse more. Never thought I would say that. But yeah, I think this is a solid song. Good stuff. Number 84, Dos Diaz by Tito Double P and Peso Pluma.
Baby, yo te lo advertí. Estando solito yo era un cagadero.
Oh look, Peso Pluma returns the favor to Tito Double P with a big feature for his new album, of which I've heard very little buzz. It's a little shocking how that regional Mexican sound has just dissolved from the Hot 100 this year. And with this, well, the farty horns are back in spades, but thankfully blended with the richer accordion around that brittle bass, with Peso Pluma's nasal braying contrasting with Tito Double P's admittedly expressive flair. But once you translate the lyrics, this song is ugly. A string of braggadocious complaints where they're flexing on their exes and dismissing the tantrums because they've got so much more money and women around them now, but none of that is also really satisfying them, although they might be a little bit too proud to ask for her to come back in any forgiveness. And yeah, I get that the ugliness is intentional to set up the punchline, but if I don't think the song is particularly compelling outside of it, I can't say I'm a fan. Yeah, I'll just skip it. Number 36, Neva Play by Megan Thee Stallion and RM.
Let them know we on the way, counting zeros every day. You know that we never play. Ay.
Okay, credit to Meg here. If she wanted to seek out a member of BTS that I would like to hear more from, it is RM, especially off that pretty good album from 2022. So with this track from the deluxe re-release of Megan, oh man, I wish I liked this more. And yeah, it's the production. The colorless clicking melodic loop that doesn't evolve, the bass that swamps the mix, the canned-sounding backing vocals, the stock trap percussion, and let's not forget RM's vocal mix that is way more compressed than Megan's and doesn't match the rest of the song at all. It sounds like it was recorded on a different continent. Then there's Meg's hook, and as someone who actually sticks up for body, I might not have much room to talk here, but Meg does not need to rely on the counting gimmick to imply that she's stacking up cash. I know she's better better than this. And quite frankly, the flexing's not that special. I like her playing up the travel references, but the anime flourishes are starting to sound kind of basic and tacky, and RM's monotone braggadociousness with the attempt at a southern accent does not help matters. Moreover, I just think the song sounds kind of uninspired. There's no intensity or fire to it. It sounds like a song made to be a hit in the cheapest way possible, and yeah, it's not good. Let's move on. And finally, number 21, The Emptiness Machine by Linkin Park.
Falling for the promise of the emptiness machine. The emptiness machine.
I guess the benefit of Billboard Breakdown is that while I'm late to the party on the larger Linkin Park conversation, I got more information to work with. So alright, let's handle this. This is the first new Linkin Park song featuring the new singer stepping in for the late Chester Bennington, Emily Armstrong. She was the lead singer of Dead Sarah, a rock act that I didn't really heard about, but she had some minor success in the 2010s. But upon joining Linkin Park, other things started coming out, like her support of Danny Masterson and ties to Scientology, having grown up in that church. Now the former she disavowed in a statement, of which you can take one way or the other, but the Scientology connection sparked a lot of blowback, especially from folks that used to be tied to that and know all of their sketchy shit, also including from Chester Bennington's son, who pointed the finger at Mike Shinoda for basically steamrolling all of this. Now Mike Shinoda does not exactly have a great reputation behind the scenes. This whole thing would have come up in background checks if they had bothered to do them, but Shinoda was probably able to get whoever the hell he wanted, with the thought that replacing Chester was always going to kind of be dicey with the fan base. But hell, they're Linkin Park. They have sold tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of albums. That's enough clout to give the label the double bird. But if Linkin Park was thinking this was all just gonna blow over, I have some serious doubts. And ultimately it was gonna come down to the music. And here's the thing. On a pure talent level, I think Emily Armstrong is good enough to fit on this song. She's got the intensity. Her screams are close enough to Bennington's that she'll probably be able to handle the back catalog. And in a way, I can kind of respect how the song seems to acknowledge that all of this is set up to fail. Deliberately confrontational and challenging the fan base and audience to just accept them coming together and not just succumbing to the emptiness machine of dispassionate dismissal of what they're trying to do. But I also think that's a very poor counter to the backlash they actually got. In that context, Mike Shinoda comes across especially as myopic. You should have known this might matter to the fans, and a self-pitying defensive posture is not a good one. But I also can't say the music does enough to really save this either. The chalky percussion and dour piano that builds into the harsher metal breakdown with the louder drum kit, I feel like the song is missing a little bit more flair in the groove or lead work to go along with that faster tempo. It needs a stronger tune outside the vocal line to really connect. But overall, I think there'd be more grace given if the song was great instead of just merely passable, and the lyrics didn't feel so directly targeted at the audience for questioning any of it. Especially as I don't think Mike Shinoda cared to acknowledge where there would be valid protests beyond just trying to move on from Bennington. Sadly, so yeah, I want to like it more, but this isn't any emptiness machine I'm in. Just frustrated disappointment. And that leads to a kind of strange week, not gonna lie. The Worst Is Easy, Neva Play by Megan Thee Stallion and RM. There is no excuse for that production misstep, I'm sorry. With Dishonourable mentioned too, Diet Pepsi by Addison Rae for a lot of similar reasons. Best of the week, okay, you know what, ASAP Rocky, you and J. Cole are gonna get it for Ruby Rosary, and Disco for Surf Curse nabbing the honorable mention. Well, I might regret that, who knows. Next week, I'm honestly not sure what's coming outside of The Weeknd, and also Playboy Cardi ripping off Future. We'll have to see where that goes, stay tuned. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you.